Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Once again, I want to talk about transgender athletes in women's sports and how it's basically dominating women's sports. And clearly at this point, it cannot be considered anything other than just a way for certain teams to cheat. And it's being called out now because a lot of footage has come out recently. We've got this current one now of a relay race, 200 meter relay, and a transgender athlete completely smoking the female athletes to the point where this individual slows down deliberately to make it look a little bit more realistic so that it doesn't look like, they have an unfair advantage. So let's have a look. And this comes just days after a Christian school was banned from basketball tournaments for refusing to allow their athletes to compete against a team that had a transgender athlete. And they themselves also said that this was cheating because it gives the team with the transgender athlete an unfair advantage. And I think some teams are catching on to this now, and it's a hustle. We want to win a tournament that we were incapable of winning for years. Let's get a transgender athlete. It's becoming a hustle now, and it's a mockery. It's literally making a mockery out of women's sports, as if women's sports doesn't have enough to deal with. The fact that they're not as popular, let's be real, they're not as popular as men's sports. They've got that to deal with. They don't make as much money. But these are young athletes now, just trying to make their way through their education, using sports for opportunities, working hard. Then a transgender athlete comes along and has to pretend to not win by such a great margin.
Competed against transgender track and field athlete June Eastwood, correct?
Yes.
What was it like competing?
I personally competed against June in the DMR, so it was the distance medley relay, and we had different legs. And when I was waiting and I was cheering on my teammate, there were coaches on the sidelines, obviously, and they'll tell you sort of like, this is your cue, or like, this is where you're at, or come on, push it, go faster. And something that was really hard for me to hear was June's coach was on the sidelines telling June to slow down, as June was in first place. And so that was something that was a true sticking point for me in this whole situation, because I realized that this wasn't difficult for June. June had already competed at this level and faster before, and so even though they'd gone through this private hormone suppression therapy, it didn't seem as if it was really coming out as fair in any sense.
So Leah Thomas just took first in the preliminaries, set to compete in the finals tonight. How do you feel about that?
It's really discouraging seeing that Leah was able to beat the next competitor in second place by 5 seconds. I was trying to explain to some other people that are here that preliminaries are not as important as finals. The whole point of preliminaries is to get to the finals, and it's based on rankings and times and how you place in your specific heat. So the idea that this athlete was able to go ahead and beat second place by 5 seconds and then is having to do it again this evening just kind of proves the fact that we're all here kind of fighting, is that it was an easy feat for this individual athlete to go ahead and participate at this level when other people may have been pushing themselves to their limit just to be able to get into the prelims.
That's where we're at now. It's a complete joke. So first we have this Vermont Christian school. They forfeited a game because they didn't want their girls competing against a transgender athlete. So they've been banned from participating in future tournaments. And the Vermont Principals Association said, the VPA again reiterates its ongoing support of transgender student athletes as not only a part of building an inclusive community for each student to grow and thrive, but also as a clear expectation by Vermont state laws in Agency of Education Best Practices and in VPA policy regarding transgender student athletes, the governing body said in a statement. So they're saying it's all about inclusion, it's all about not excluding anybody. They should have the right to participate in the sport of the gender they identify with. Never mind the fact that in sports, men and women are separated for a reason. But for some reason, that doesn't count when it comes to a transgender athlete, a biological male identifying as a woman. For some reason now, that doesn't count. And then officials said the White River Junction-based school failed to meet the association's policies on race, gender, and disability awareness. Mid-Vermont Christian School is disappointed with the decision of the VPA Executive Council to ban us from participation in all VPA activities, head of school Vicky Fogg said in a statement to Fox News Digital on Tuesday. We intend to appeal the decision. Cancelling our membership is not a solution and does nothing to deal with the very real issue of safety and fairness facing women's sports in our beloved state. We urge the VPA to reconsider its policies and balance the right of every athlete in the state. So again, I commend this school because at some point you have to take a stand. You have to refuse to compete against biological males. At some point, that's what it's going to take. So I commend this school, and they make a good point. It's not just about fairness, which we're going to get into. It's also about safety. We've seen girls fight biological males in combat sports. We've seen, on a professional level with MMA fighters, women having to fight biological males. The volleyball example, the young girl was knocked out cold because a male athlete whacked that thing and it hit her, dead in the face. She was knocked out cold. And they said that, in volleyball, the net is placed differently depending on whether it's for women or men. The net is actually placed differently. So the net was, I'm not an expert, but I'm assuming the net was a bit lower. So they had even more force behind that hit. And, so the fact that it wouldn't have been likely to have happened if a young lady had made that hit, it's because it was a biological male. So let's take a look at this story now. The latest one, this is a 200 meter relay, and the team has a transgender athlete. And some people are saying it's a little bit convenient that you have a transgender athlete and now you're winning a tournament that you were unable to win. So the headline, Daily Mail headline says, "This is simply cheating. Massachusetts high school is slammed after winning girls' state track and field championship with trans athlete who once told haters, just deal with it." Which is basically the general sentiment. If you're a female, you just have to deal with it. I did athletics when I was in school. I was an athlete, and thank goodness I did not have to deal with this nonsense. There was always one girl I met at tournaments, and she always beat me. But that was a girl. So I couldn't complain. I trained hard. I did my best. If she was there, I was like, oh, great, she's gonna. But imagine at your tournaments now, there's going to be transgender athletes, and you have to reside to that fact. Those transgender athletes are going to be there at every tournament. What chance do you have? So a Massachusetts high school has been criticised for allowing a transgender girl athlete to help win the state track and field championship last month, amid a heated debate over trans athletes in sport. So the transgender athlete's name is Chloe Barnes, and it says, Chloe Barnes helped Brookline High School to the state's Interscholastic Athletics Association Division 1 Indoor Track and Field Championships over 3 other schools after competing in the girls' 55-metre hurdles. Her 4th-placed finish in the race behind a Brookline teammate helped her school get the points necessary to win the title. When we look at the video we're about to see, we shall see that this athlete has a clear advantage over the others. In the video from that race, she can be seen sprinting ahead of her competitors, helping Brookline to victory in the Massachusetts State Track Coaches Association Northeast Invitational. She was following the rules, as the state's policy explicitly states that all students must be allowed to participate in a manner consistent with their gender identity when there are sex-segregated disciplines. That's all it takes. You have to say you identify as a female, you're allowed to compete, that's it. So of course, this is going to be abused. I mean, even if it's not abused, it's still an unfair advantage. So let's take a look at this race.
This Vineyard, Amherst Pelham in 4, Melrose in 5, Martha's Vineyard in 3, Brookline in 2. Thank you, I have my water, I needed some.
Coach, I'm going to take a walk around the venue, see what's going on in the practice gym.
Absolutely, I appreciate you. And I think I want to go behind the scenes this year for the Marathon Expo. I've never been, but I heard it's an amazing event.
You're invited. Anywhere you want to go, you're invited.
I appreciate that.
Hit me up on the LinkedIn.
I got you. I'll text you because there's a secret I want. Last year I met Meb.
Yep.
Is there a possibility? You know what I'm gonna ask?
Yeah. There's a
So Chloe literally turns around and is like, "Where's everybody?"
There's always a possibility.
I like the possibilities.
All right.
We're not going to talk about it.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, he's not only an amazing father, he's an amazing husband.
And the commentators aren't even addressing this because this is embarrassing.
He is the CEO of the Boston Athletic Association. So our future marathon runners, make sure you support the BAA in all their events. And Jeff dropped the little gems. We're seeking to recruit the next wave of leaders in our sport.
Absolutely.
There you
Whether you're a
go.
coach.
Absolutely.
Brookline are way ahead. So let's have a quick rewind.
On the LinkedIn.
I got you. I'll text you because there's a secret I want. Last year I met Meb.
Yep.
Is there a possibility?
Wow.
You know what I'm gonna ask.
Yeah. There's always a possibility.
I like the possibilities.
All right.
We're not gonna talk about it.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, he's now.
So let's hear a little bit about this transgender athlete. It says a year ago, before beginning to compete against girls, Barnes had grown a defiant attitude towards any potential outrage at her participation in girls' sports, having told a student newspaper last year that critics should deal with it. Just deal with it. This was after having spent a year participating in the girls' team, but competing with the boys, saying it was more a result of me just being afraid of other people watching me race. Critics have spoken out, with female athlete advocacy group Icons Women saying that Barnes kept another girl from participating in the finals and argued that boys' hurdles are taller than girls' hurdles, making it even easier for Barnes to compete. And that's the thing. Girls' sports is adapted for girls. Hurdles are lower. They start at different positions. I mean, I remember when I used to do 300-meter hurdles, the boys just went straight to 400 meters. So they adapt things for the different sexes, for the different genders. So everything is just set up for them to have an unfair advantage. The people, the organizers behind this, they need to be held accountable. This is facilitating cheating. So I commend the Christian school for taking a stand against this, and Riley Gaines, all the female athletes that have spoken out about this, I commend them. And I really hope that they continue to push on forward with this, because this is going to ruin women's sports. There's no way around that. It's going to ruin women's sports. And at some point, these transgender athletes are going to compete internationally at Olympic events, at world championships. At some point, that's going to happen if it hasn't already happened. And it's going to affect women's sports across the board, not just in high school, not just in college, not just in America. This is going to be something that is catastrophic for the future of women's sports, and it shouldn't be allowed. So at some point, people are going to have to take the same stance as a Christian school and just refuse to compete. A girl, a woman in these women's sports are going to get seriously hurt before this is taken seriously. Unfortunately, that's what it's going to take. And, you know, that Christian school said, not one of our girls. And I commend them for that. So thanks for watching. Let me know what you think. Share your thoughts below. And take care of yourselves. I will see you in the next video.